All right, today we're going to handicap Saturday's Florida Derby from Gulfstream Park. They drew the post positions earlier today. They made the morning line, and as you could see, Audible drew post position number 8. He's been made the 9-5 morning line favorite. We're going to start our handicapping breakdown for this race by taking a closer look at the morning line favorite, Audible. And here are the past performances for Audible. One thing that's going to jump out at you right away, you see he won the Grade 2 Holy Bull Stakes by 5.5 lengths last time out, got a big figure, and he did it with Javier Castellano riding. Why isn't Castellano riding today? Well, the $10 million Dubai World Cup is being run the same day as the Florida Derby, and Castellano has the mount on West Coast. The Baffert-trained West Coast is going to be very hard to beat, should be a strong and deserving favorite. You know, in the World Cup's a $10 million race. This is a $1 million race. To me, I wouldn't read too much into, Castellano opting to ride the favorite in the Dubai World Cup instead of here. I mean, I think any rational, jockey agent or rider would have made the same decision. So that we won't, emphasize too much, but something that's kind of disconcerting about Audible, or to me, are his two most recent workouts. We're going to take a closer look at Audible's two most recent works. All right, we're going to start this off actually by watching Audible's breeze from March 17th. This is his workout 2 back. Now he's going to be on the inside here. And Prince Lucky, a horse who ran in the Sunland Derby after this work. Johnny Velasquez, Pletcher shipped him to the Sunland Derby. Johnny Velasquez went, all the way to Sunland Park to ride him. And Prince Lucky was 9th, beaten 14 lengths. He's the kind of horse that's never really run any kind of number. So this was a very surprising work to see Audible basically, in my opinion, how it worked. You see Audible on the inside here. Prince Lucky on the outside with the white cap and white jacket is under an extremely hard hold. You see him rounding the far turn. I mean, Prince Lucky is just going so much, just effortlessly went a length in front of Audible. You see Audible is being hard ridden here. I mean, this is... You'd have a hard time believing that this is the favorite for the Florida Derby on the inside in this workout, but that's what it is. And Prince Lucky is just under a hammerlock. The rider looking over, at the rider of Audible, just waiting on him. And you see here, Audible's been ridden very hard the whole way. And, Prince Lucky was... I mean, the rider did everything he could to make this a close work at the wire, but to me, this was a pretty dismal performance by Audible in the work. Now, with that said, here's Prince Lucky's form. You see here, this was the March 17th workout here, and Pletcher was encouraged enough by that work that he entered. He entered Prince Lucky in the Sunland Derby. You see Johnny Velasquez went all the way out to Sunland to ride him. And, Prince Lucky showed nothing in the race. So that March 17th workout was disconcerting for Audible. We're going to take a look at his final prep for the Florida Derby, March 24th. And here is the March 24th work at Palm Beach Downs. You see Audible's on the inside. He's working in company with a 3-year-old here named Vino Rosso, who actually was beaten 6 lengths in the Tampa Bay Derby last time. Vino Rosso 4th by 6 in the Tampa Derby. Here is Audible on the inside, and we're going to watch their final work together. And to me, this was just, another discouraging work from Audible. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be saying, you're putting way too much emphasis into these workouts. But I'll say this: I've seen Audible train. I've seen two of his workouts before these two, and they were, in my opinion, much better works. I mean, he outworked an older horse in both of them. Now here you see, look at Vino Rosso on the outside. He's going very easy. I mean, Audible on the inside's under pressure, and Vino Rosso is just, I mean, clearly going much better of the two here. You see him going by, and your favorite in the Florida Derby is just, and another Pleasure 3-year-old just toyed with him in a workout. But as I was saying, maybe I'm putting a little too much emphasis in these two workouts here being disappointing, his final two coming into the race. You see, he's been ridden extremely hard just to get on even terms. But Audible had trained better before that. Now, we'll go back to his past performances here. And one thing I will say about Audible, I mean, he might possibly be a bit of a lazy horse. When he debuted on September 27th at Belmont Park, there was nothing that happened to him coming out of the gate. I watched the head on here. He broke with this field, and Johnny Velasquez was just riding his ears off, trying to push and shove him into the race. And he dropped 18 lengths back after a quarter, 19 lengths back after a half. And, he rallied up the rail in the race to get third. So he has shown signs of laziness in a race before. But look how he improved after that. They stretched him out to a mile. The added distance obviously helped. Here they ran him at Aqueduct in a race that was taken off the grass. So they actually entered to run him on the grass in his third start. Very rare you see a horse who's going to be the favorite in the Florida Derby entered in a grass race at Aqueduct in December. And luckily for them, there was some bad weather there and the race came off the turf. And, it was only a 4-horse field that day, but Audible jogged. He won by 10 lengths. It was another 14.5 length margin to the third place finisher. So the horse who was third in the race got beat about 24.5 lengths, but I mean, that was only a 4-horse field. But so you saw Audible really take a step forward and wake up there. Now, I saw him train before the Holy Bull. I saw one of his workouts. He outworked an older horse, in my opinion, a good older horse. His March 10th workout, he worked very well. I thought he outworked an older horse, good older horse there. So two different, pretty quick older horses he outworked. I mean, he was a $500,000 2-year-old in training sale purchase at Fasig-Tipton March. And I thought he worked very well there. So, I mean, maybe there's some inconsistency to him. Some days he's lazy, some days he's not. I don't know. But, very strange to see a horse who's going to be favorite in the Florida Derby just get so crystal clearly outworked in his final two works coming in. Again, maybe we're putting too much emphasis on that. You saw his bout of laziness early in a race, and, he's overcome that. And, I will say this, though. If he was 4-1, 6-1 morning line, the way he's been training really wouldn't discourage me too much. But because he's going to be a strong morning line favorite in the race, I've got to play against Audible. I mean, if he beats me, if he runs back to this Holy Bull performance, he definitely can win this race, but he's just going to have to do it without my money. I thought he got a good trip in the Holy Bull. He got a good, clear outside stalking trip. Free Drop Billy came to him on the turn, and he brushed Free Drop Billy off with alarming ease and just drew off to win by 5.5 through the stretch. Now, Free Drop Billy did disappoint in New York. Dale Romans actually ran him into Gotham next time out. He cut back to a mile, and he got a very similar trip to Enticed, who won that race, but Enticed actually ran fourth in the Holy Bull too. So I wouldn't put too much into the disappointing race Free Drop Billy ran last time. But audible for Todd Pletcher. You see he's only started 4 times. You see the improving figures. Certainly if he makes another jump like that, there's no way they'll possibly beat him. And you see some lightly raced horses for Todd Pletcher come up big the last 2 preps. I mean, Magnum Moon won the Rebel in just his 4th start very impressively. Noble Indy won the Louisiana Derby last week. But last week we saw Noble Indy. He put on the blinkers first time, and he trained like a monster. Impressively outworking a very good older horse in his drill. Audible, on the other hand, I just can't take a very short price. He hasn't raced in 56 days. He isn't training as well as I'd seen him train back there. So we're going to take a shot and play against the Audible this race. If he takes another step forward and beats us, you can call me a dummy or whatever, but Audible is a play against for me. All right, moving along, you see Promises Fulfilled. The floor is the 3-1 second choice on the morning line for Dale Romans. Take a look at him now. All right, Promises Fulfilled come out of that Key Kentucky Jockey Club race on November 25th. This race has produced 6 different horses in this race have come back and won stake races next out. And, Promises Fulfilled, certainly one of them, the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth, 18-1 odds. Now, we covered the Fountain of Youth in depth. I'll post a link so if anyone wants to go back and see, a 15-minute recap of the Fountain of Youth, very in-depth, they can click on that link and do it. But briefly, I'll say what happened there was that, Promises Fulfilled went to the lead through slow fractions. You see -1, -3 there. The 48 and 2/2 was actually, these fractions were slightly slower than a maiden special weight race run at the same distance, the same day, a couple races earlier on the card. In fact, the Bill Maud horse who's in this race actually won that maiden race that day. But so Promises Fulfilled got an easy lead, loose and uncontested. And, he went on to win by 2 1/4 lengths. They tried to rate Strike Power that day. The 2-year-old champion, Good Magic, was third. Just with Audible, you see a similar thing here. A horse with only 4 races in him and rapidly improving figures to the 104 last time. I think the key to this race is what happens with Strike Power early. I just don't see, especially with Strike Power drawing the rail, where they're going to let Promises Fulfilled have an easy lead. And another thing to note, just as with Audible, you see jockey Irod Ortiz rode Promises Fulfilled last time. He opted off the second choice in this race, Promises Fulfilled, to ride Catholic Boy, who is the third choice. So Irod opted for Catholic Boy over Promises Fulfilled. Now, one interesting thing, if you're going to take a positive view about Promises Fulfilled, one very interesting thing, he's won 3 or 4 races. His only defeat was in the Kentucky Jockey Club. Now, I want you to watch what happened to him going around the first turn. I thought he clearly had some equipment issues that day. Hold on, I'll run the replay here. All right, Promises Fulfilled is going to be the 7 horse here. This was a very roughly run race. You had a horse lose his rider. There was a lot of trouble, but we're gonna run this here.
Promises Fulfilled racing up for the lead.
Okay, you see Promises Fulfilled here, the 7. Watch him start to get out here. You see the rider go down in the back there, but watch the rider really has his hands full with Promises Fulfilled. I mean, he's way out into the track now. He's about 5 or 6 paths out into the track. You see here, look at this rider on Promises Fulfilled. I mean, he was getting out, just complete hammerlock on him he had. We'll watch it one more time. There goes the rider, you see. Anyway, 6 horses from this race come back and win a stake next time. Promises Fulfilled one of them. So this was the only time he was ever beaten in his career, and he kind of looked like Bravazzo last week with just not refusing to corner on the turn. And we see here, the rider's really having a hard time with him. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out about Promises Fulfilled. This was the only race he was ever beaten in his career. And, there was certainly some equipment issues there, perhaps. So Promises Fulfilled, 3-1 on the morning line. And we're going to look to try and beat him here. I mean, he just took advantage of such an easy pace in the Fountain of Youth. Strike power drawn inside of him, I think, is very key. I don't look for him to get an easy lead here. I think Promises Fulfilled is another short price horse to oppose in the Florida Derby. Moving along, you see the 6th Catholic Boy for Jonathan Thomas. And this is the horse Irad Ortiz Jr. did choose to ride. And he is the 7-2 third choice on the morning line. We'll take a closer look at him now. All right, here's Catholic Boy. You see he's by More Than Ready out of a Bernardini mare. The dam of Catholic Boy was actually a half to Arch Warrior, who was just an extremely hyped up Pletcher 2-year-old who won his debut at Saratoga. Was just a horse that had a lot of buzz to him and, never materialized. But that is Catholic Boy's breeding. You see, debuted on the turf first time out. Actually debuted at Gulfstream early on as a July 2-year-old. They went slow early. You see, -14 to the first call, -16 to the second call. And he just blew by. Very, very eye-catching debut when he did Catholic Boy. And he kind of was overlooked with anticipation. Coming from Gulfstream to Saratoga, he won at 12-1. From there, he went to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Was in tight. It says was just beaten a length and a half, but he made his dirt debut in the Remsen at Aqueduct, and to me, this was a very impressive performance. He won by almost 5 lengths. You see Avery Island, next out winner, finishing second. From there, he went to the Sam Davis. Now, there's a couple of things I want you to note about the Sam Davis. The most important of which was the slow pace. You see, they went -7 to the first call, -3 to the second call. Tampa could be a pretty demanding surface, too, for a horse that's been off some time. I mean, it has a real tendency to be that way, but we'll take a look at the races run that day on the Tampa card now. And you see here's the February 10th dirt races from Tampa. You'll notice the Sam Davis here. They went 24-18 for the first quarter. Now take a look at the other 3 two-turn dirt routes that day. They won 23-72 here, and it was won by a horse from On the Pace. So they went faster, and it was won by a horse from up front. Here you see they went 23-54 for the first quarter. And in the $5,000 claiming race for horses who haven't won in a year, they actually went 23-72, 46-72. So a full second faster for a half mile in this $5,000 claiming race up here than the grade 3 3-year-olds did in the Sam Davis. It's just a very slow pace. And even in this $5,000 claiming race where they went 23-72, 46-72, you see the winner won from On the Pace. So the fast pace wasn't destructive for $5,000 horses. They just went extremely slow here, in my opinion. And a horse like Catholic Boy, he won the 1 1/8 Remsen from mid-pack, drawing away. He was shortening up to 1 1/16. He was off sometime. The Tampa surface tends to be deep and tiring, but he got absolutely no pace help in that race. Catholic Boy's he needs points if he wants to get into the Kentucky Derby. He's probably got to run first or second in this race. You see him, improving his first dirt race in the Remsen in '98. He give some good time in between. 101 figure he ran. He's going to have some pace today, but he comes in. A lot's being made of his March 25th workout. You hear a lot of people, a lot of commentators and stuff saying how impressive it was. We'll watch it, but there was something you should note about that workout. Here is Catholic Boy's final workout for March 25th. This is his only work over Gulfstream. You see him back here. Now, a lot's been made about how impressive this workout was, but the horse that's up in front is a horse named Eagle Pass, who is, an unraced maiden. And not only is Eagle Pass an unraced maiden, but he really only started back training a month and a half ago. So this is a true mismatch here. I mean, these horses paired. It's strange pairing because Catholic Boy, should be able to effortlessly, draw from Eagle Pass. And look at under the hard hold. I mean, he just went by. I mean, he's being strangled back now. So you see, Catholic Boy is just a vastly superior horse. A lot's being made of this workout. You're going to watch how visually impressive it was, but I wouldn't get too carried away with the work for the simple fact that, the work made here is just ridiculously outclassed and just doesn't have the fitness and bottom that, Catholic Boy has. I mean, he's literally working with an unraced maiden who has been, really only been back to training for a month and a half. Came back, started training, I believe, February 9th, and before that was, off for several months. So that is Catholic Boy. There's his ballyhooed workout. It obviously shows that the horse is doing well and everything, but I don't know if I would get too carried away with it. It was a good work. But his company was overmatched is the whole point that I wanted to emphasize. Now, Catholic Boy was a horse that I had rated in my top 5, actually, for Derby prospects, and I just like his running style. He's a horse who's tractable. He's not necessarily a closer, but he's a horse that you could, take 3 lengths off the pace from 6th position. He can come from mid-pack. You see just draw from mid-pack. Here he had no pace. He had to try to come sweeping wide into this 47-3. This was on a day when, $5,000 dated claimers went 23 and change, 46 and change, and the pace held. So I think his Sam Davis is a little better than what, to me, Catholic Boy is a solid contender in here. Moving along, you see Strike Power for Mark Henning. He's got the rail. He's a 4-1 morning line, 4th choice. And this is a horse that we've, always have been interested in. In fact, if you look at the first video we've done on this channel, it was right after Strike Power won his debut race, and we did a video of, taking a closer look at him. Since his debut, there's probably been there certainly has been a little bit more intriguing a horse, Justify, we looked at, who had a very impressive debut afterwards. But Strike Power was the horse that got this channel going. We're going to take a look at his form now. You see here with Strike Power, this was the dazzling 8-length maiden when he had first time out at 12-1 odds. Just a real eye-catching performance, and it actually got this channel's first video. I think we only previewed 2 other maiden first-time starters after this one. We did a video on Justify after he broke his maiden. He's probably going to win the Arkansas Derby. And we did a video on Magnum Moon right after he broke his maiden. He's gone on to win the Rebel, and he's probably going to run second in the Arkansas Derby. So, 3 horses that really impressed us the day they broke their maiden. They've come back to do good things since. And you see, in Strike Power's case, he won the Swale second time out. I mean, he did that on the wrong lead. I mean, it wasn't a very impressive performance in our opinion. You see, it was -5, -4. He got loose through a relatively easy pace. You know, he come home on the wrong lead. He didn't gallop out well. He run last time in the Fountain of Youth, and they tried to rate him back. He run a good race here. I mean, he was given promises fulfilled 6 pounds. He carried 122 pounds in what was his first time around 2 turns. He let the winner go, promises fulfilled, who only carried 116. Strike Power ended up getting a better sheep figure of the two. You know, he was wider on both turns, carried a lot more weight, and those are things that factor into like thoroughgraph figures, Ragozin figures, etc. In fact, if like I said, I'll post a link of the Fountain of Youth breakdown we did if you want to go more in depth with that race. But you see, Good Magic, the 2-year-old champion, was a clear third that day. So Strike Power ran really nice, and he is a horse. In my opinion, he's trained best of all, most impressive of all coming in. I'll show you his March 23rd work now, and one real thing that's been encouraging is he's been changing leads on cue in some of his morning workouts. He's yet to do that in a race, but this is a lightly raced horse who might have a big forward move in him. You know, if he figures things out from a sort of a mechanical standpoint. But we'll go watch this March 23rd work. All right, you see here Strike Power's in the red cap. He's working in company with a horse named Mathematician. Mathematician, is kind of a horse that runs figures in the mid-70s. Was third in a couple of maiden special weights last time out. So, I mean, he's a good, solid maiden that he's working with here. It's a horse that Strike Power, should be able to do a lot better than in a morning workout. But, I mean, this isn't a total, a horse that, you would expect him to just completely destroy. I mean, Mathematician is, a horse with okay form. Now, we don't know what kind of workhorse he is, because I've never seen him breeze other than here, but you see him dart in front of Strike Power early. And Strike Power doesn't get, he doesn't get too bothered by that move. A lot of times when a horse comes up to their outside and goes by so aggressively like that, the horse inside wants to grab the bit and, pull real hard. And not really with Strike Power. You see, he's just, he's got his ears up. He's kind of on cue here. You see they got another horse to their outside, but Mathematician, to his outside, trying to kind of push him along. And just look how good Strike Power does this. I mean, to me, this was, a lot more was made of Catholic Boys' work, but I think this one might have been the best work of any horse coming into this race. I mean, this was very impressive to me. I mean, 47-4, and just, doing it extremely willingly and impressively. Power there, he's got the rail. If he breaks well, I think they got to go to the lead with him. I mean, I think Strike Power is very, very, very dangerous in this race. As the fourth choice, he's good value. This is a very talented horse. So, Strike Power from the rail going to be a strong contender. Okay, you see here the 1 Strike Power and the 6 Catholic Boy are the 2 horses we like the most in this race. They're the horses that we form our betting tickets around. But we'll go over and take a real quick look at the form of the other horses we haven't looked at yet. We'll do that now before we give our final betting strategy. Okay, you see the 2 horse here, a horse named Millionaire Runner. The trainer is 3 for 143 at this meet. That's about 2%. I mean, it's he's like milk. He comes in 2%. So this is a terrible entry. I mean, why would you run a horse? I mean, you see, he won a maiden 30 by 10 at Parks, and got beat 19 lengths to Catholic Boy at 166 to 1 odds in the Remsen. It just hasn't been competitive in optional claiming races and allowance races. I mean, this is this is just a ridiculous entry in my opinion. I think Millionaire Runner has absolutely no shot. Probably isn't even worth talking about. Moving along the 3-horse tip sheet, just another horse that's just way overmatched. You run into Holy Bull, he got beat 20 lengths to Audible. You know, he was third here. You see the Noble Indian Mississippi after stumbling a bit in an optional claimer 3-back, but this horse has not shown much. I mean, third last time, he got beat 25 on a sloppy track in the smooth air. This horse is completely overmatched in your tip sheet. He's got the running style where he might pass a few horses, but boy, would it be a shocker if he gets a piece. I think he'll beat the 2 Millionaire Runner, but that's about it. The 4 promises fulfilled we talked about. Storm Runner. You'll notice him in this Fountain of Youth recap if you want to watch. He got shut off bad. It's a steadied rail early. Rosario tried to go inside of promises fulfilled, and Ira Ortiz just completely shut the door on him. Rosario had to take a hard hold and check Storm Runner. It probably would have claimed foul on Ortiz if not for the fact that both horses were trained by Dale Romans. So Rosario kind of, if you're riding for one guy and that guy has another horse in the race that wins, you don't claim foul. That's a good way to, never ride for Dale Romans again. So Storm Runner had an excuse that day. He beat Mississippi, who's a horse on the outside that's going to take a little money, 2-back. I thought he was the better of the 2 horses that day. I mean, I watched the race. It said Greenly Lane, which was true. He looked like he was trying to throw the race away in the lane. But, Storm Runner did run a good number that day. It was a good performance. I didn't like the way he finished at all, though. Storm Runner is a horse that, maybe a little intriguing for underneath, but he's just not for me. Catholic Boy, obviously a strong contender. This was the interesting maiden to me, Hofburg. He won his, first of all, he debuted at Saratoga, and Bill Mott has just an absolutely terrible record with 2-year-old first-time starters at Saratoga. Mott is a great trainer, but he does not crank his horses up to win early. I mean, he gives them an education. And you can see this horse was off step slow, 4 to 5 wide. He didn't have Lasix that day. He comes back off a long layoff, has to break from post position 11, which post position 11 was so bad that Mississippi, you see here on the bottom, actually was entered to run in the Holy Bowl and drew post 11. And, the Connections, the trainer of Mississippi, publicly said that they were going to scratch because they hated the post position. They thought the post position was, too impossible. For a horse to run well out of. Post 11 at Gulfstream is tough. But you can see Hofburg had it in his comeback race. He was caught, 5 wide on the first turn, about 3 to 4 wide on the second turn. If you watch the replay, he actually idled in that race. He opened up on the turn, got to about a 2 or 3 length lead, and you saw his ears go up when he was looking around, and really kind of lost focus. But this other horse here, this Mike Matt's trained long shot, Just Whistle, came to him, and luckily enough, he was able to regain his focus and dig in and win by a half length. Very, very well-bred horse for distance. The Damn Soothing Touch, she produced a Emollient who, could run absolutely all day. I mean, Emollient was a 2-turn horse, could run dirt, turf, synthetic. Soothing Touch by Touch Gold, who won the Belmont. And the Damn Soothing Touch was AP Indy. So you had AP Indy, Touch Gold, 2 Belmont winners. This horse is a little intriguing to me as Hofburg. I mean, I think he'll, I don't know if he'll be up to the task here, but he's a horse that, maybe we could look at for underneath to spice things up in his 20 to 1 morning line. Audible is the 8. Obviously, we talked about him. And finally, Mississippi. This was the horse. He entered in the Holy Bull on February 3rd. They didn't like the post position, so they scratched him and ran him the next day in an optional claiming non-winners of one allowance. He was defeated by Storm Runner, who's in this race, and Storm Runner, of course, was dusted in the Holy Bull, or not dusted in the Holy Bull. He was dusted in the Fountain of Youth. But Mississippi, just his form hasn't been too impressive to me. I know he ran with Noble Indy down here, and it was a useful performance, and he won his maiden second time out. The connections really, really like this horse. He's adding blinkers. There's some marginal things to like, but I just can't get on board with Mississippi. So with that said, we'll go to our betting strategy for the race. All right. Okay, from a betting standpoint, you got Audible, the strong morning line favorite at 9-5. We talked about how we're going to play against him. I mean, he's going to be a short price favorite who is really discouraging us with the way he's trained coming in. I don't expect him to make a big forward move. So we're going to play against Audible. We're going to play against Promises Fulfilled. Now, if either one of those horses win, I would not be in the least bit shocked. I mean, if Audible just, runs to his last race, he can win. But, we're a little discouraged with how he's training, and we don't want to take a short price like that. Promises Fulfilled is a horse, if he gets left on the lead again, he can win. I mean, if they let him go to the front with no pressure, I would not be surprised at all if he wins. But I don't think that's going to happen. And if he gets hooked early, he's real bad value at 3-1 if Strike Power goes. So the two horses that we want are Strike Power, 4-1 morning line. I think if he gets the lead and gets it unpressured, they'll never catch him. I mean, he has got just an enormously talented horse. And Catholic Boy for Irod Ortiz, was hopelessly against it last time in the Sam Davis at Tampa. They went just way too slow early, run a sneaky good second. He's been hyped up as, they're hyping up how he's training coming into this. I don't know. I think that's a little, they're overdoing it a little, but, because the horse he worked with, he should have blown by him. But Catholic Boy is going to get a piece. He's got the right running style. Let's try to put together Strike Power and Catholic Boy, the 1 and the 6. If you want to, maybe a sneaky long shot for your trifectas, how about the 20-1 Hofburg? A lightly raced but talented and an improving horse for Bill Mott and Jose Ortiz. So it's between Strike Power and Catholic Boy for us. And the Florida Derby, we'll box them in some exactors, and we'll play them on top. We'll play those two horses in our pick 3s and pick 4s, and maybe a little Hofburg underneath for the trifecta. So there it is. Thank you.